What if the most painful part of dealing with a narcissist isn't what they do to you, but the fact that no one else believes it's happening? What if your family thinks they're wonderful, your friends call them charming, and you're the only person who sees the manipulation behind the smile? If you've ever questioned your own reality because everyone else seems convinced they're a good person, stay with me until the end. Today, you'll discover why this happens, why it isn't a sign that you're imagining things, and most importantly, how to trust yourself again. The final lesson may completely change the way you see your situation and yourself. One of the most confusing aspects of being involved with a narcissistic person is realizing that the version of them everyone else knows is completely different from the version you experience in private. They often create a carefully managed public image that makes them appear thoughtful, confident, generous, intelligent, or even deeply compassionate. They know how to say the right things, make a strong first impression, and earn admiration from friends, coworkers, and even extended family. This polished identity is not accidental. It is often maintained with great effort because it protects them from criticism and gives them a steady source of validation. Behind closed doors, however, the story can be very different. The warmth disappears, empathy becomes conditional, and conversations may be filled with subtle criticism, blame, silent treatment, manipulation, or emotional invalidation. You may find yourself walking on eggshells, constantly monitoring your words to avoid conflict, while everyone else insists that this person is wonderful. This sharp contrast can make you question your own perception of reality. You begin to wonder whether you are exaggerating, misunderstanding, or somehow causing the behavior yourself. That self-doubt is exactly what makes the situation so emotionally exhausting. The narcissistic individual benefits when their private behavior remains hidden because it allows them to maintain credibility while leaving you feeling isolated and unheard. It is important to remember that people who spend only a few hours with someone in social settings are seeing a performance, not necessarily the complete person. You, on the other hand, are witnessing the moments when the mask slips away. Recognizing that these two versions can exist at the same time is often the first step toward understanding that your experiences are real and that your emotional reactions make sense. One of the hardest realities to accept is that other people may genuinely have positive experiences with the narcissistic person while you are experiencing something completely different. This does not necessarily mean they are lying, and it does not mean you are imagining your pain. Narcissistic individuals are often highly selective in how they present themselves. They know when to be charming, supportive, humorous, and generous because those qualities help them build a strong reputation. In public settings, they may compliment others, appear calm during disagreements, and even go out of their way to help someone, creating an image that is difficult to question. Because of this, friends, relatives, or coworkers may struggle to believe that the same person can also be controlling, manipulative, or emotionally abusive in private. They simply have not witnessed that side of the relationship. Narcissists also tend to reveal their most harmful behaviors only in situations where they feel safe from consequences, often targeting the person closest to them. They may speak differently when no one else is around, use subtle insults disguised as jokes, deny conversations that actually happened, or make you feel guilty for expressing your emotions. Since these interactions happen away from public view, there are rarely witnesses who can confirm your experience. This isolation can make you feel invisible and deeply misunderstood. You may even find yourself trying to collect evidence or explain every detail in hopes that someone will finally believe you. But the absence of public proof does not erase the reality of what you have lived through. Understanding that narcissists carefully control who sees which version of them can help you stop measuring your truth by other people's opinions and begin trusting your own lived experience instead. Being the only person who sees the narcissist's true behavior can leave deep emotional wounds that are often invisible to everyone else. The pain is not just caused by the manipulation or criticism itself, but by the loneliness of carrying an experience that no one seems to understand. When the people around you admire, defend, or praise the narcissist, you may begin to wonder if your own perceptions can be trusted. This constant conflict between what you experience privately and what others see publicly creates intense self-doubt. You replay conversations in your mind, question your memory, and search for explanations that make the situation feel less confusing. Over time, this emotional conflict can wear down your confidence. You may stop expressing your feelings because you're afraid of being dismissed or misunderstood. Instead of trusting your instincts, you start relying on the narcissist's version of events, even when something inside you tells you it isn't true. This is one of the lasting effects of gaslighting. It slowly disconnects you from your own judgment and replaces certainty with confusion. As your confidence fades, anxiety often grows. You may constantly worry about saying the wrong thing, triggering another conflict, or being blamed for problems you didn't create. The emotional exhaustion becomes part of everyday life, making it difficult to relax, enjoy relationships, or feel safe in your own thoughts. Some people even begin to withdraw from friends and family because explaining their experience feels impossible. They fear being judged, ignored, or told they are overreacting. The isolation becomes another tool that keeps the narcissist in control. Recognizing this emotional cost is important because it reminds you that your confusion is not a personal weakness. It is a predictable response to prolonged emotional manipulation, and understanding that truth is the first step toward rebuilding your confidence and reconnecting with your own inner voice. Narcissists rarely treat everyone the same because their behavior is driven by what each relationship can provide for them. They often choose one person to become the primary target of their criticism, manipulation, or emotional control. This is usually someone who is emotionally invested in the relationship, values honesty, and genuinely wants to make things work. The closer you are to a narcissist, the more access they have to your emotions, your fears, your hopes, and your vulnerabilities. Instead of protecting those vulnerable parts of you, they may use them to maintain control. They learn what hurts you, what makes you feel guilty, and what keeps you trying harder, then repeat those patterns whenever they feel their influence slipping away. At the same time, they may treat other people with kindness, respect, or charm because those relationships serve a different purpose. Friends, coworkers, neighbors, or even extended family often receive the polished version of the narcissist because maintaining a positive reputation gives them admiration and credibility. If everyone else believes they are caring and reasonable, it becomes much harder for the person being targeted to speak up and be believed. This selective behavior is intentional because it creates confusion and isolates the target. You may wonder why they can be so patient with strangers, but so harsh with you. The answer is not that you deserve different treatment. It is that your emotional closeness makes you more valuable to their need for control. Recognizing this pattern can help remove the burden of self-blame. Their behavior is not proof that you are difficult, unlovable, or overly sensitive. It reflects the unhealthy dynamics they create with those closest to them. Understanding that narcissists carefully choose where to reveal their true behavior can help you see that the problem lies in their need for power and control, not in your worth as a person. One of the biggest traps people fall into after experiencing narcissistic abuse is believing that healing will only begin once someone else confirms what happened to them. You may spend months or even years trying to explain your experience to friends, family members, or anyone who knows the narcissist, hoping that if just one person finally believes you, the pain will somehow become easier to carry. This need for validation is completely understandable because emotional abuse often leaves no visible scars. However, waiting for other people to acknowledge your reality can keep you emotionally tied to the very situation you are trying to escape. Not everyone will understand what happened, especially if they have only seen the narcissist's charming public personality. Some people may minimize your experience, change the subject, or insist that the narcissist has always been nice to them. While these reactions can be deeply hurtful, they do not change the truth of what you lived through. Your experiences are valid even if no one else witnessed them. Learning to trust your own memories, emotions, and observations is one of the most important parts of recovery. Instead of asking, "How can I make them believe me?" begin asking, "What do I need to heal?" That shift changes your focus from seeking external approval to building internal confidence. It also frees you from the exhausting cycle of defending your reality. You do not need to convince every friend, family member, or coworker before setting healthy boundaries or walking away from a harmful relationship. Your decision to protect your peace does not require a vote from other people. Healing becomes possible when you stop measuring the truth by other people's opinions and start recognizing that your emotional well-being matters, even if your story is understood by only one person. After living with gaslighting and emotional manipulation for a long time, one of the greatest challenges is learning to trust yourself again. Narcissistic behavior often causes you to question your own thoughts, feelings, and memories. You may clearly remember a conversation only to be told that it never happened. You may express your hurt only to hear that you are too sensitive, too emotional, or making things up. Over time, these repeated experiences can make you doubt your own judgment. Instead of relying on your instincts, you begin relying on the narcissist's version of reality because it feels safer than constantly defending yourself. This loss of self-trust is one of the deepest wounds narcissistic abuse can leave behind. Rebuilding that trust does not happen overnight, but it begins with acknowledging that your feelings deserve attention rather than dismissal. If something consistently makes you feel anxious, confused, or emotionally drained, those emotions are important signals, not weaknesses to ignore. Start paying attention to your own experiences without immediately searching for someone else to confirm them. Keeping a journal can help you recognize patterns that were once easy to dismiss. Looking back at your own words often reminds you that what you experienced was real and consistent, not imagined. It also becomes easier to separate facts from the confusion created by manipulation. As you continue healing, you may notice your confidence slowly returning. Decisions that once felt impossible become clearer because you are no longer filtering everything through the narcissist's perspective. You begin to recognize that healthy relationships do not require you to constantly defend your reality or apologize for your emotions. Trusting yourself again is not about becoming perfect or never making mistakes. It is about believing that your perceptions, your instincts, and your emotional experiences have value. The more you practice listening to your own inner voice instead of the criticism or doubt planted by someone else, the stronger that voice becomes. Eventually, you stop asking, "Am I imagining this?" and start saying, "I know what I experienced, and I trust myself enough to act on it." That quiet confidence becomes one of the strongest signs that you are truly healing. One of the most powerful moments in healing comes when you realize that your ability to see the narcissist clearly is not a weakness. It is a strength. For a long time, you may have believed that being the only one who recognized the manipulation meant there was something wrong with you. You may have wondered why everyone else seemed comfortable while you felt confused, anxious, or emotionally exhausted. But the truth is that clarity often comes through close experience. You saw what others could not because you lived through the private moments that revealed the narcissist's true patterns. You witness the sudden changes in behavior, the subtle insults disguised as jokes, the shifting of blame, the broken promises, and the emotional control that happened when no one else was watching. Those experiences gave you insight that casual observers simply did not have. As your understanding grows, you begin to realize that the narcissist's carefully crafted image is not your responsibility to expose. Trying to convince everyone else often keeps you emotionally attached to the very dynamic you are trying to leave behind. Instead, your energy is better spent protecting your own peace, strengthening your boundaries, and surrounding yourself with people who consistently respect and value you. Healing does not require the narcissist's confession or the approval of everyone around you. It requires your willingness to believe your own experience and make choices that support your emotional well-being. Over time, the confusion begins to fade. You stop interpreting manipulation as love and control as concern. You recognize that genuine relationships are built on empathy, honesty, accountability, and mutual respect, not fear, guilt, or constant self-doubt. The narcissist may continue protecting their image, but that image no longer has the power to define your reality. Your clarity becomes stronger than their performance because it is rooted in lived experience rather than appearances. Once you fully trust what you have learned, you no longer need to argue with those who cannot see the truth. You simply move forward with greater wisdom, stronger boundaries, and the confidence that comes from knowing your reality is valid, even when others fail to recognize it. If you're the only one who sees the narcissist, remember this: truth is not determined by popularity. 100 people believing someone's mask does not erase what happens behind closed doors. One person's lived experience is still real, even when nobody else understands it. Healing often begins the moment you stop trying to convince everyone else and start believing yourself instead. You don't need a jury to validate your pain. You don't need unanimous agreement to set boundaries. You don't need everyone else's permission to leave a relationship that is harming you. The narcissist's greatest protection isn't their charm, it's other people's assumptions. But your greatest protection is your growing awareness. Once you recognize the patterns, you no longer confuse manipulation with love or control with care. If today's discussion resonated with you, remember this: you are not alone, you are not imagining things, and you are not too sensitive. Sometimes the strongest person in the room is simply the one who sees the truth that everyone else has missed. Your healing starts the moment you trust your own eyes more than someone else's opinion. And once that happens, the narcissist loses one of their most powerful weapons, your self-doubt.